I want to give you a quick little trick that's going to really help with your phrasing. Before we jump into the stuff about phrasing, I want to tell you about a really neat little opportunity that I have going on right now that might make a really big difference in your clarinet playing over the next 30 days. So if you've kept up with me and Quick Start Clarinet at all, then you know that I've recently finished up version 2 of my method book, The Next Generation Clarinet Method, and I'm really excited to be getting that out to people. And I put together a fun little challenge to help people get through it and really implement it into their playing over the month of September. If you want to be part of the community that's really excited about improving your clarinet playing, then make sure to go to quickstartclarinet.com/progress and you can check out all of the information about the challenge. It's going to be a great way to not just know exactly what you should be practicing over the next 30 days and give you some new things to look at and new ideas and lots of information about how to play the clarinet, but it's also going to be a great way for you to be held accountable and actually have some people that you're working with and getting to know and really working through it to really make sure that you're practicing every single day for the month of September. A couple of quick disclaimers about the challenge. It is completely free, but you do need to have a copy of the Next Generation Clarinet Method. There's all the information about getting that at quickstartclarinet.com/progress, so you can check that all out with all the challenge information there. One other thing, it is starting on September, and this is going to be the official 30 days of the challenge, but even if you're watching this after September 2020, you can actually still do the challenge. Just go to that link, the quickstartclarinet.com/progress, and check that out, follow that information. All of the stuff's still there. We won't be going through it live together, but you can still leave comments on everything and still interact with other people, and I'll still be happy to answer your questions in the comments on that challenge. All right, now for my little trick about helping your phrasing. So first of all, phrasing is just sort of this idea of how we navigate our way through a phrase in our music. It has a little bit to do with the dynamics that are actually written, and the dynamics that are written and all the information on the page can help us to figure out the phrasing that we want to do. But I always think of phrasing as a little bit deeper than just the surface level dynamics, and it's about really knowing where you're going, what's happening in the music, and why you're doing the dynamics, and where is the loudest point of the piece or of the phrase, and sort of figuring out how you're going to navigate through it, how to add in so much more inflection and so many more dynamics that may not necessarily be written there. And I think the secret to the best phrasing in the world, the phrasing that the greatest musicians do, is that they're being storytellers. The reason why professionals sound so great with their phrasing in particular is because they know where they're going, they know the story that they want to tell, and they're able to effectively communicate that story through their instrument and through their playing. Now notice the two really important aspects of that. First, they have to know where they're going, they have to know the story of the piece, and that takes some effort and some thinking to figure that out. And number two, they have to be able to convey that through the instrument, which that also takes some effort and some figuring out. Starting off with that first aspect with knowing the story, this is sort of the difference between maybe a bad dad joke, you know, all those stereotypical dad jokes where he starts saying something and then he's like, is this the punchline or what comes next? I think this, no wait, I think we go back, you have to actually, the brick was somewhere else and the plane was flying elsewhere. All those different details that get mixed up when your dad's telling a bad joke. But a professional is like a professional stand-up comedian. They know exactly what they're doing, they've tested it, they know when audiences like to laugh, they know exactly how to emphasize the right word to make the joke really funny, and they never forget their punchlines. And that's exactly what we need to do as musicians to have great phrasing, is think about it, analyze the music, get a plan in our head, and know the story of the piece. Luckily, most phrases work a lot like a typical story where you have sort of the introduction, things are starting out, we go somewhere, we sort of go on an adventure, we tackle a challenge, we have the rising action, then there's a climax, the tension's rising, the peak of the phrase, and then it usually resolves at the end. And a lot of phrases and a lot of overall pieces sort of work that way, and if you can find where those interesting points are, then you're going to be able to play it more effectively. This works on the big scale of the piece, for a whole piece can have that sort of shape to it, and it also works for very small phrases. So you can sort of look at the micro level or the macro level as you're looking at this phrasing stuff, but it almost always works where you sort of go up to a peak and then you resolve, especially in classical music. Contemporary music can be a little different, but even in contemporary music and most pieces, you can find that kind of shape to the phrases if you sort of look at it and figure out how to analyze it. We can see a pretty clear example of this even in the first four measures of the Mozart concerto. We have, we're going on an adventure, rising action, tension, resolution. And when you start to think of it as a story, then you're able to communicate it so much more clearly, and you're not stuck sitting there, oh gosh, I'm playing Mozart, am I gonna get my articulation right? Oh gosh, I'm scared, and then it sounds bad. Now, even though we have that sort of broad context for how most phrases work, there's still a lot of interesting details. Not every phrase in every piece sounds exactly the same, and that's another job of us as storytellers. Same thing with most stories, most movies. They have a similar plot line where it's that rising action, the climax, and then everything turns out fine in the end when the hero finally saves the day. Yet, most stories are pretty interesting because they have all of these little nuances and details. You don't get totally tired of seeing the same plot arc over and over because of all the twists and turns and other exciting things that happen. And that's exactly true in music too. And that's where we can really get a lot out of it if we look at all of the harmonies, the details, the articulations, and we find those cool points that we want to bring out. And that's where we start to form our own unique interpretation, is where we look at the music for ourselves, find those cool things, and instead of just telling the story like we heard our grandma tell it, or telling the story like we heard Martin Frost play it, we start to come up with our own ideas and our own interpretations and adding in our own little cool details and bringing out the things that we find interesting. And that's sort of the final evolution of really great storytelling, phrasing, is that we're able to add our own ideas, add our own inflections to the piece, and bring our own voice to it and start to shape something that's uniquely ours and is our story, not just a repetition of Mozart's story. Mozart gave us the words, but it's up to us to find which words we think are the most important, which details of the story we want to bring out and convey to the audience. Now, the second part is effectively communicating your story, your interpretation of the piece to the audience, and this is where practicing comes in. There's nothing too exciting to say about this. It's just a matter of doing your fundamentals all the time so you have the control of the instrument to play the exact articulation or the exact dynamic that you want, and then just practicing a lot to know how to get what you want to come out of the instrument. And if you do that, usually the audience will catch it too, as long as you do it clearly enough. And often all of you need to do it clearly is a clear image in your mind of what you want to do, and then just lots of repetitions in the practice room, making sure you can do that consistently. So I hope that sheds some light on what phrasing actually is, and I really encourage you, when you're practicing whatever music you may be working on next, to really think about what story am I telling, what are the cool details in this piece that I can communicate and convey to the audience, and don't forget, if you want to really challenge yourself over the month of September to become a better clarinetist, go to quickstartclarinet.com/progress for all of the information about the Next Generation Implementation Challenge I'm doing. I'm really excited about the Next Generation Clarinet method. I think it's going to be absolutely fantastic for so many people. And if you're sort of in a place right now with your playing where you're sort of feeling stuck, maybe quarantine and the pandemic has really thrown off your practicing and you don't know what you should be focusing on, you don't know what pieces you want to play or what music to do or what issues you need to fix in your clarinet playing, this challenge is going to be a great opportunity for you to see some new perspective on a lot of things and really start working back towards getting your clarinet playing in shape and really getting a lot of new information as well to take your playing to that next level. So definitely check that out if you're interested and you want something really concrete and really tangible to improve your clarinet playing over the month of September. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in another video.